1 minute. So thank you all for being here. Great. Well, hello everybody. Thank you all for being here. We're just about to get started. Really appreciate you all being here. Let me just make sure that everything is ready to go. Okay, great. I think we are ready. Thank you all for being here. I'm Dr. Arati Kreibich, running for Congress in New Jersey's 5th District. This is really exciting today, July 2nd. We have 5 days to go for the election. We are really excited. So those of you who have your vote by mail ballots at home still, please remember to vote. Remember to vote for me. In Bergen County, I am column 3. So real Democrat, real change, Arati Kreibich, and please bubble in the bubble, shade in the bubble next to my name, seal it, sign it, seal it, and put it in the mailbox on or before July 7th. There are also, besides the USPS mailboxes that you can use, postage is already on there. There are also county ballot boxes in particular locations throughout each county. We have a list of them on our website. So please go to aratiforcongress.com/vote if you want any information on vote by mail ballots. If you want to look at a sample one, look at where I am in each county, which column or which row. And have any other information about where your polling places might be for provisional polling, for provisional ballots on July 7th. We'd like to avoid that as much as possible. Please vote by mail, vote early, and get them in on or before July 7th. That would be great. So thank you for that. Again, as I mentioned, if you have any questions, you can always go to aratiforcongress.com/vote. VOTEARATIFOR congress.com/vote. We are really, really excited. We have 5 days to go. Our grassroots energy is still really high, and it's getting higher the closer we get to Election Day. We have made so far, the entire group, our excellent team of volunteers, of supporters, of fellows, have made more than 500,000 phone calls at this point. We have made more than 300,000 texts. We are making sure that we can get out and speak and connect with every single voter in our district who's able to vote for us. So I am really excited about that. This is how we're going to get it done. As always, really happy to be here on the town hall, answer your questions, and anything you have before July 7th. So let's get started with some questions. Mike, do you have our first one up?
Hi, Arti. Yes, I do. I have our first question about the environment. Is that where we're starting tonight?
Yeah.
Great. Coming up here. William in Ridgewood asks, Senator Warren has called for a Blue New Deal to protect the world's oceans and empower coastal communities. In your pursuit of climate justice, will you support a Blue New Deal with the Green New Deal?
Thank you for that question, William. I really appreciate it. And yes, we talk about, or Senator Warren has talked about a Blue New Deal in order to make sure that our oceans are also represented. They're a key part about our fight against climate change, and it's absolutely undeniable that they are. So I absolutely believe that we do need to protect our oceans. I mean, New Jersey is a coastal state after all, and we do understand the importance of that. And I think that this is really connected with the framework of the Green New Deal when we're talking about that, and absolutely in terms of centering around justice and centering around making sure that we do put climate justice within that context is very important. So I would support that 100%. Thank you. So those of you who are joining us, make sure that if you have any questions, you can post them in the Zoom chat. You can also post them in the Facebook Live that's going on right now. And we are also broadcasting on Twitter and YouTube. So.
Great. Okay. Our next question, Arti, you may remember this was actually submitted at our last town hall, and we ran out of time, so we decided to address it now. Bonnie in Paramus asks, what measures do you plan to put in place to assure all citizens fair treatment from police systems as well as the justice system?
Great. That's a really important question, Bonnie. Thank you so much for asking that. I'm sorry we didn't have a chance to address it last time, and I'm happy that we have a chance to address it today. You know, we are talking a lot more as a society, as our communities, in terms of because of the Black Lives Matter movement, about what justice looks like, about what justice frequently hasn't been for, especially for Black folks over centuries. So I think central to that is really understanding what we can do moving forward. For me, again, baseline, it's having elected officials who are actually going to condemn police brutality. That's the least that they can do. It's a minimum, right? My opponent, as you all may know, still hasn't been on the record to condemn police brutality. Again, if you can't name it, I'm not sure how you're able to fix it effectively, while making sure that you're giving voice to folks who are hurt, who are in pain, by making sure you're listening to folks in our communities, in our district, who are calling out for justice. And justice begins with that. I think moving from there, we absolutely need to make sure that we do things like banning chokeholds, that we do things like improving transparency in police records, that we ensure that these bad apples that folks are talking about are not rehired, right? But of course, it's beyond a few bad apples. That analogy is really stale and does not actually reflect what is going on with systems of racism that we need to dismantle, particularly with law enforcement. I think we need to reimagine public safety. We need to reimagine what it means to have safer communities and how we go about achieving those. And that means thinking about and putting our funding towards demilitarizing police. That means having law enforcement that is not the sole purveyor of how we keep our communities safe. I think that means coming together in our communities, right? And making sure that we are able to allocate the resources adequately to really important things that go beyond policing. For me, that is also making sure that we are putting our resources towards housing, towards education, towards myriad other things that strengthen our social safety net, and really are the kinds of things that make our communities safer, make our communities more inclusive and more equitable. And at the end of the day, you know, when we talk about some of these motions and legislation and policies that go from reforming police, I think we also need to make sure that we ensure that law enforcement officials are not above the law. And a step towards making sure that is the case is to end qualified immunity. Again, a step that my opponent refuses to support. So I think all of those things together, particularly with the kinds of conversations that we're having now, are going to move us in the direction that we absolutely need to go, especially if we're trying to rebuild the system, especially if we're trying to rebuild our society so that it has more equity for everybody.
Okay, are we ready for the next question?
Sounds good.
Great. Billy in Norwood. Great question. If you are the nominee, how will you attract centrists and Republicans to win like Josh did?
Hey. Well, I appreciate that question, Billy. Look, I know that people are really asking, are you going to win the general election? Are you going to be able to actually represent us? Are you actually going to be able to keep the seat blue? Absolutely. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't convinced, if I didn't know because of the data that we have, that we are absolutely going to keep this district blue. Look, we know this district is blue. In fact, we just have some data that came today. So actually, Mike, I don't know if you have that GIF that you can share with us that actually shows this visually, which I think
have
makes.
GIF. I would love to show that, and then I have a still of the last.
Oh, it's great.
So yeah,
so I want to show you, because we talk about this all the time, right? So we talk about, so we in NJ5 are actually all the way up here. I don't know. Can people see that? The fact that I'm looking at the cursor. Well, NJ5 is all the way up on top. So you can see actually moving from being Republican to, with the registration advantage that we have with Democrats, to being a solid blue, right? And I think that that really shows where we are right now. Part of what I want to make sure, you can take that off, Mike.
Sure.
We're good. Thanks. And so I think what that shows is really when you think about whether or not NJ5 is blue, right? We have a registration advantage that we hadn't had before. So we have more Democrats that are registered than we have Republicans that are registered. And I think that's important because that really hasn't happened since this district was gerrymandered in 2010 into the shape that it is right now. And that's key, right? And we knew that that was happening. Those of us who've been in NJ5, those of us who've been here and understand the kinds of things that have been happening, we know that we've been turning blue, right? Especially after 2016, especially after Trump. And it's due in large part to a response to Trump. And I think that that is really, really important to think about. So we've had grassroots organizations who have popped up. We've had people like me who formed grassroots organizations, other folks who've formed, become activists and become a lot more involved in politics as a result of the Trump election. I mean, this is why when Josh won in 2016, he won with 2 points. And then when he won in 2018, he won with 14 points, right? That blue wave was there despite of his questionable votes, because we got together, we voted, we knocked on more under the indivisible umbrella, and we knocked on more than 30,000 doors for him. And that's because we knew that we could keep the seat blue, and we had to activate and make sure that we did keep the seat blue. And we did, right? That swing from +2 to +14 doesn't just happen, right? We have to work for it. And it is absolutely a reaction against Trump. Unfortunately, my opponent, our Congress member, really hasn't moved in that direction, hasn't reflected what we need from our district, right? I think that that is particularly important when we think about who is it that's actually representing us. We clearly need somebody who is representing the people and not corporate interests, not somebody who's out of touch with what our people need, not somebody who is taking millions of dollars in cash from corporate PACs and Wall Street private equity, et cetera. We need somebody who understands that our healthcare system is broken and we need to fix it. Particularly in the middle of a pandemic, we absolutely need to move towards a single payer healthcare system. This is clear, right? My opponent, on the other hand, was supposed to vote on the Obamacare expansion, and he ended up voting for it, but adding a poison pill amendment along with 178 other Republicans. And it was a ploy to basically sabotage Obamacare expansion and give the right of veto to the HHS Secretary, Alex Azar. So at the end of the day, when we're looking at somebody who's actually trying to protect our residents, who is actually trying to help our residents, we know who that is. So folks in our district understand that. Folks in our district are excited by people who are standing up, who are not the status quo, who are not politics as usual, folks in our district who understand elected leaders who have the lived experience to understand the pain of the various different people in our district who are struggling right now with the pandemic, either because of their health or because of the economic crisis that is only going to get worse. right? At the end of the day, what we need are people who not only fight for the right policies that are going to make us resilient, but also fight in Washington, understanding that pain and knowing it, because I am one of the people like us in the district. I am just a regular person trying to do what we can to make the world a better place. And I think that everyone resonates with that, particularly folks who are unaffiliated in New Jersey. They're unaffiliated because New Jersey politics sucks. They're unaffiliated because New Jersey politics and politics in general hasn't really done a lot for them. And what they need are people like me. What they need are people like me who are going to stand up and actually represent their interests. And that's exactly the reason why I'm going to win in the general, and exactly the reason why I'm going to keep the seat blue, not just this year or in 2 years, but really 4, 6, and 8, and so on. So thank you very much for that question. I appreciate it. So let's see if there are any other questions. I think there's a question from somebody in the Zoom chat. Do you want to read that out loud, Mike?
Yeah, sure. I have the slide right here.
Oh, you have a slide. Great.
So I think this is John Lynn. John has a question about federal subsidies. What industries, if any, would you attempt to subsidize? Likewise, which industries would you attempt to cut subsidies from?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you so much. So one of the frustrating parts about the COVID-19 stimulus packages has been the fact that they have really concentrated on bailing out corporations instead of actually helping people. And in particular, bailing out corporations and bailing out fossil fuels. I think that I know that it's imperative that we move towards a future that is free from fossil fuels. So that means making sure that we don't give them endless subsidies. There was absolutely no reason to end up going in there. And I think that that's actually a huge issue. And what we need to do in terms of the economic crisis that we have right now, what we need to do to come out of the economic crisis is to make sure that our government is able to invest in green energy. I think the Green New Deal framework is a perfect one to do that. It's ideal because now that we're looking at a burgeoning economic crisis that is going to be worse than the Great Depression, with 45 million Americans that are out of jobs, and we're not sure how many of those jobs are coming back. We need the federal government to really invest in green jobs, green energy, and grow the economy in that way. We need the federal government to have a federal jobs guarantee. And these are going to be good paying jobs that come to North Jersey, that come to NJ5, that help put our people to work, while at the same time, make sure that we're making that shift that we need to make away from fossil fuels, away from the way we've just used energy, and towards something that will make us more sustainable. And those are the bold climate actions that we absolutely need to take to ensure our planet's sustainability, or at least our species' sustainability on this planet. And I think the two can come together to make that happen. Okay. Are there any other questions, Mike?
Yes, we got a couple coming in the chat. Thank you, everyone, keeping the questions coming. So I'll just go right ahead.
Sure.
We have a question from Lisa. Foreign policy in the next 2 years. How would you differ from Josh?
That's a really good question. Thank you, Lisa, for that question. Look, right now, our biggest danger to our foreign policy, it's clearly the president that we have. It's clearly Trump. He has a reckless disregard for peace, for stability, whether we're talking about the Middle East, whether we're talking about Israel, Palestine, whether we're talking about our relationships with China, particularly with North Korea, especially with Russia. Clearly it is evident that the president we have right now cares only about his own selfish motives, only cares about profiteering. It's very, very unclear to me whether he actually holds American lives of any value at all, and whether or not he cares about peace and stability across the globe. So the number one thing to ensure think peace and stability in the future is to make sure that we don't have him as the president, which I know we're all going to do our darndest to make sure that doesn't happen in November. And I'm optimistic that we're going to succeed. Look, at the end of the day, though, we need to make sure that we don't have Congress members who actually aid and abet his foreign policy decisions, as terrible as they are. So for one, I would have not only disagreed, I not only disagree with Trump's peace plan, quote unquote peace plan for the Middle East in Israel and Palestine, which is really a thinly veiled annexation plan, but I would call that out loudly and all the time. I disagree with Josh on a number of those things, including the fact that he voted against the Iran War Powers Resolution. I disagree with this completely. He was one of only 2 New Jersey Democrats that voted that way against the Iran War Powers Resolution and with Trump on that. The other New Jersey Democrat who voted in that manner is now a Republican. And I think that tells you everything that you need to know about that decision. So for me, I think we need to approach foreign policy with the idea of peace, building peace, with the idea of making sure that we are ending our endless conflicts, that we're ending our forever wars while taking responsibility for what we have done to endanger millions of people all over the world. I think that the safety and security of the United States is not mutually exclusive with ending these forever wars. I think, in fact, that's exactly what we need to do. I mean, we have veterans who talk about this all the time. Common Defense, who I'm so grateful has endorsed me, as well as a number of other incumbent Democrats in New Jersey, but has not endorsed my opponent, Josh Gottheimer, in this particular instance, is because of his foreign policy outlook and perspective, and because they know that to have a lasting peace, to actually take care of our veterans the way we need to ensure that we don't go into spurious wars that are really there only for Trump or spurious reasons at the end of the day. I mean, to actually truly protect our troops, we need to truly protect what we hold most dear. Okay, let me just see if there are any other questions. I think there's a question about the digital divide.
Oh, great. Yes. We got a question in the chat from Ray Callis. It's a multi-part question. So we'll see what we can get to here. Sharing now. Ray Callis asks, what will you do to ensure that, 1, we provide broadband access to everyone so we can minimize and eliminate the digital divide? 2, what do you think about creating a new, redefined, and robust 21st century fairness doctrine? And 3, how can we ensure that media will serve the public interest in this digital era?
Those are a lot of great questions all in one. I'm going to summarize them by talking about what it means to really have net neutrality and why that's really important, right? Yeah, absolutely. We need broadband access. We need net neutrality, something that I'm completely opposite in terms of my views and in terms of my opponent's views to this very important question. Look, it is absolutely necessary in this day and age, particularly as we have gone through the pandemic, that we need broadband access. It's been clear, right? We have relied so much on the internet access. We have relied so much on ensuring that we have Wi-Fi, that we are able to communicate, we are able to do work, we're able to do schoolwork. And we know that this digital divide has been a real issue with low-income communities in all over NJ5. So we clearly need it, particularly in rural areas as well. And I think that it's important now more than ever that we push towards it. And net neutrality is in ensuring that we're able to have the right kind of competition to lower prices, ensuring that we can actually have the internet as a right, again, as a utility, I think is very important. And I think that more than anything else, because we are reducing the influence of monopolies, because we're ensuring that we don't have monopolies, is an important thing that we need to do moving forward. It absolutely needs is for free and fair democracy and free and fair society that we're building. I think there are a couple of follow-up questions. I'm just going to kind of share that they are about media, they're about truth, they're about ensuring that we promote truth and that we are actually able to have dialogue based on truth, right? We've all seen fake news. We have all, some of us have been caught up with it, right? There are memes that and things that you click that seem like they really reflect what you need or what you think, and they may or may not be true. We know that we have influence of foreign actors, in particular information that we get. We know that our president currently is not interested in investing foreign actors. Look, it's the role of our government to make sure that we not only investigate these, that we ensure that we take whatever steps that we need to enforce the kinds of things that we need to do. So I think that is key. I think beyond that, though, we need to make sure that we are having real dialogue across our communities, right? I think that we have to ensure that we promote truth and we promote data that is based on scientific fact, even when we're talking within our communities. It is the responsibility of all of us from a younger age. I mean, my kids were taught about where you look for sources of information and what are reliable sources and what are not. And I think we need to do that moving forward. And at the end of the day, we all need to come out of our bubbles, wherever they might be, and actually really have conversations with our neighbors. So I think that we can move towards that as long as we have policy that ensures that we are on top of the regulations, on top of enforcement of these things. We absolutely cannot have folks in Congress that don't even know, what social media is, and that don't even understand how we can regulate any of the policies that are on here. And yes, we do need more regulation of the kinds of things that are on social media. And a larger part of it is to make sure that we have Wi-Fi for all at the end of the day. All right, I think we're getting up to the end of time right now. I know that there are a few more questions that we have on here. We're going to save them for the next town hall, which is again in a couple of days. Just as I did with a couple of questions that we didn't answer last time, I will answer them next time as well. So thank you all for being here. We have 5 days to go. We will also email you out answers to the questions and as well as answering them next time. So look, we have 5 days, 5 to go for election day. Please get out there. Please vote. Please ensure that if you have already voted for me, if you have supported me, you tell 5 other people to vote. Make sure you sign it. Make sure you seal it. Make sure you put it in the mailbox or the county ballot box on or before July 7th. I really appreciate it very much. And I will say that if you are interested in our campaign, if you support our campaign, if you want to be a larger part of our community, we welcome you. We could really use you. Our volunteers are working so hard, nonstop. We would love your help. We have lots of volunteer opportunities still left over the next 4 days until Election Day, including Election Day. So you can go to our website, aratiforcongress.com/volunteer. We have opportunities for contactless lit drop, so very safe, social distance, mask wearing, etc., lit drop. And we absolutely need you to come out and help us with that, because the more voters know about us and our campaign, the more likely they are to vote for us. And this is how we're going to win. We also have shifts for phone banking that are available. So please join our team, aratiforcongress.com/volunteer. First, make sure you vote, and next, after you vote, make sure you volunteer. And if you're able to support our campaign in other ways financially, we would really appreciate it. You know that this is a grassroots campaign. You know that we are refusing corporate PAC money. You know that we're refusing fossil fuel money. This is fundamentally why we need a sea change. This is fundamental difference. between me and my opponent. And if you believe in this, if you believe that our political leaders should only be beholden to people, please volunteer, please vote, please donate today. And I can't wait to win on July 7th with your help. So thank you so much.